Welcome to a special edition of the Lakers Nation podcast. My name is Trevor Lane, and we are here today to celebrate the Los Angeles Lakers hanging on to their top 3 protected pick. Can you believe it? For the third year in a row, the Los Angeles Lakers will have the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. I've got Corey Hansford, Lakers Nation's resident draft expert, with me today to break it all down. Let's jump right into things because I am so excited to talk about what a great day this was for the Lakers. Let's get to it. All right, I have the Lakers Nation draft expert Corey Hansford with me today to celebrate the Lakers landing the number 2 overall pick. Corey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And with that, I will take a drink to the Lakers holding on to their pick. A shout out to Jameson for more or less sponsoring my part of this podcast.
Sponsoring 50% of our show, and I guess my half still has to be sponsored by Harry's Razors. Harrys.com/Lakers. Go check that out. We'll slip in a little plug right there. So Corey, let's go through the draft itself, because I know I was on pins and needles as they were announcing each and every pick. I was praying that nobody jumped up in the draft and knocked the Lakers back. What were you thinking as each pick was being announced?
I was for most of the day, I was pretty good. Probably about 4 o'clock or so, it really started to hit the nerve started to hit me. And then as each pick was going, I'm always looking at what team's supposed to be next, so I know what to expect. And if I don't see that team, I know, oh crap, something's happened. And, the funny thing is, with the last 2 years, was that there was never any movement until before the Lakers actually came up.
Right.
So this is the first year in 3 years that someone moved. It was Sacramento, and it was like, oh crap. Okay, so now I gotta worry about who moved. And then Sacramento pops up again at 5 because of the pick swap with Philadelphia, and it just got confusing, and I had no clue what was happening. And
were you scared for a minute there?
Very much.
It hit me too, man.
At first, I actually got excited because for a second I thought another team jumped ahead, and if 2 teams had jumped ahead, then the Lakers would have been number 5. And so when it showed the Kings again, I thought a second team had jumped up. And in my head, I was thinking, well, if 2 teams jumped up and the Lakers would have been 5th, and they weren't. So for a second, I thought the Lakers moved up right then. I thought, that's it. The Lakers moved up and kept the pick. Not realizing that they came again because of that swap with Philly, and that they have 2 picks in the top 10. So, and then once the Suns came in number 4, I just let out a yell and just, oh man, I was ridiculously excited. That was it. This was the most stressful one of the 3, I think. Definitely for me. This was the most stressful one of the 3.
Was it the odds that the Lakers only had a 46.9% chance, or was it everything that was on the line that made this more stressful? I was certainly stressed too, but by this point I felt like I've been used to going down this road. You know, we've been through this the past few years. So what was it that made this so stressful for you?
I think it was mainly the odds, because it's so difficult for the third odds to kind of stay in that top 3. The odds, and with the last 2 years, the Randall year was it was very unlikely that teams behind the Lakers were going to move up. Just the odds of that happening are very, very small.
Yeah, it was like an 82% chance.
Yeah, exactly. And the second it was kind of the same. Like, we need 2 teams behind number 4 to have us lose the pick. Yes, there's a chance, but it's just not a great chance that two teams between 5 and 14 are going to jump up. It happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen too often. So I just, the odds as a whole just seemed way more likely that the Lakers were going to fall off. And with so much at stake, not just with the picks in the 2019 pick, but also with the what the Lakers might be doing in this offseason and all the rumors and possible trades, just the assets and not having them or having them, that just really played a role. And for me, it's like getting this pick is such a huge asset if they were going to make a move or something of that nature. I just wanted the Lakers to have as many assets as possible. And I really wasn't sure if it was going to happen.
Now, I'm with you on that all the way. I let out a yell as well when the pick was revealed. I actually woke up my 9-month-old, or not woke her up, but I made my 9-month-old cry because I yelled so loud. And I mentioned this earlier on Twitter. She calmed down eventually, but yeah, I let out a yell and was super excited about this. But I also was looking at this whole situation earlier today. And I mentioned this in my Twitter feed. I said, if the Lakers keep the pick, regardless of what pick they get, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, there is going to be a cry across the country from fans of other teams that the draft was rigged. What do you say to those fans?
Stop it. just stop it. Come on. It's rigged. It's like it can't be. There's literally multiple people from every single team in the room watching this as it happens. Like they're not about to rig this. You can say whatever you want, but it's not rigged. It's the teams with the first, third, and fourth best odds were in the top 3. So it's not like it was some crazy. It's not Cleveland in 2014 again.
Right.
Where just random team jumps way up and wins the lottery for the third year in a row. But those weren't, didn't hear all that rig talk back then, not that much. But Lord Lakers keep the pick again, and it's rigged. It's ridiculous. You know why? Because if they wanted to rig something, then why aren't the Lakers getting the number 1 pick? Why wouldn't the Lakers have gotten the 1 pick when everyone knew Karl Anthony Towns was going to be the guy to come in and immediately change the league?
Exactly.
That would have been the rigged year. Why isn't that happening? No, it's ridiculous. Just stop it.
Yeah, if they were going to rig it, the Lakers would have Karl Anthony Towns right now, or they would have Ben Simmons, who I think they missed on the guy in the draft for 2 years in a row. Even though we haven't seen Ben Simmons play, from what we saw of him in summer league and everything, that guy is pretty impressive. So I think that the Lakers, if they had rigged this thing, they would have ended up with at least one of the number 1 overall picks. They had to settle for number 2, but in the moment, it doesn't even really feel like settling. It's just such a sense of relief that they kept the pick. So what now? What do we do at this point? Do the Lakers end up just taking whichever guard is available? Do they take Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball? Or is there one guy that you think they should be really hoping drops here? Or are they just in a great situation where they get to take whoever Boston doesn't?
I think it's a great situation regardless. I've always said, for me, the top 3, I would have been happy with any one of them. With Fultz, with Ball, or with Josh Jackson. I'm an unabashed Josh Jackson fan. I don't care that he can't shoot. But I would have been happy with any of the 3. So to me, it's more than likely going to be either Fultz or Ball, whichever one is left, and it's probably going to be Ball. And I'm more than happy with that. I've always said, to me, Fultz had the highest ceiling, but for the Lakers, Ball is the best fit with what we want to do. The Lakers are trying to get out and up tempo, and that is where Ball shines. He is great in transition. He gets the ball up the court either through dribbling it himself. He's a good rebounder. He averaged about 6 rebounds a game, I believe. He's great at earlying the ball up himself. He's not a ball pounding point guard where he just has to dribble the whole time. He understands to move the ball, which is huge in Walt's system. He can shoot the ball. And he just has something about him that, I can't stress it enough. Yes, UCLA as a whole had a pretty good freshman class last year.
Yeah.
But the crown of that was Ball. And he switched the entire mentality of that team to where he got Bryce Alford making good passes and extra passes for them, in addition to guys like TJ Leaf and Anik Bogu, who are both going to be first-round picks probably as well. The entire mentality of that team changed where everyone was looking for that pass. Everyone was trying to make everyone else better and trying to make the right play. And that's because of Ball's mentality and what he brought out of them. He made guys better. And with the Lakers having guys like Nance and Randall and Zubats who could really use, someone who can get them more easy buckets, it's a huge, huge thing to get Ball in. Not to mention for someone like Russell, who basically had all of the playmaking duties on his shoulders because there really wasn't a good secondary playmaker on the Lakers. And you look on the team, and the next best guy who could get guys shots was Randall when he felt like it sometimes.
Yeah.
And
maybe Ingram.
Ingram, who was really just kind of growing into it. Mm-hmm. And Clarkson more or less seems to have regressed as a playmaker and as far as getting guys shots. So, this would be great for Russell to take some pressure off of his shoulders, because I really think he had a lot on his plate to make everyone better, and Ball's going to, relieve a lot of that. And not to mention he can knock down the NBA three. There's no question he can knock down the NBA three because he's been shooting from about 8 feet behind the high school and college
right.
since, forever. So it's, I don't care about his form or whatever. Kevin Martin averaged about 30 a game in this league. I'm not worried about Lonzo Ball's form. It's a great fit. It really is a great fit.
Now, even if they end up with Fultz, I still like that fit too. I mean, I'd be okay with Fultz, and I'm glad that you brought up D'Angelo Russell. I threw this out on Twitter earlier because we are already seeing rumors that teams are starting to circle. They're starting to think about putting together packages to get D'Angelo Russell from the Lakers. And this was my take, Corey. We'll see if you agree. I said that the Lakers should be absolutely blown away by an offer for D'Angelo Russell because I really like D'Angelo Russell off the ball. I liked what we saw with him with Jordan Clarkson when Clarkson was the point guard and Russell got to sort of have that weight lifted off his shoulders. What's your take? Do you think we see a better D'Angelo Russell because he's next to a guy like Fultz or Ball?
Absolutely. 100%. I think, as you said, we started to see it with Clarkson at the end of last year. And, I mean, as much as people want to get on D'Angelo Russell, look at the numbers. Puts up, you don't get many 20-year-old point guards in their second year averaging 16, 5, 4 over a steal a game in their second year. If you're going to trade someone like that who's still on his rookie contract, mm-hmm. who is obviously beginning to grow, it better be for someone really good. You don't dump a player like that just to get rid of a contract or just for random, ancillary pieces. If you move Russell, it better be for someone who is going to make a difference, a real difference on this team. Other than that, you got to keep him around because, to be real, he was the best player on the team last year. Sorry, Russell haters. He was the best player on the team last year.
After Lou Williams was traded.
Yeah, after
right.
Lou. Okay, I can't argue Lou will.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, this is someone who's showing something. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. We don't know if it is or isn't. But it's worth seeing, especially if you can pair him with a guard who can relieve some of these things and move him off the ball. And he can still play on the ball a lot, too. It just gives you a lot of options. It's positional flexibility. That's what makes Golden State so dangerous.
Right.
That's what makes San Antonio so dangerous. That's what makes Cleveland so dangerous. And now the Lakers have the opportunity to do that with someone like Ball, adding someone like Ball or Fultz or Jackson, for that matter, with Russell, who can play, and Clarkson, who can play both guard positions, and Ingram, who can play multiple positions, and Nance and Randall, or whatever they end up doing. The pieces are starting to align. They're starting to come together. That's the most important thing.
Now, I've been saying this for about a month. It feels like it's destiny for Lonzo Ball to end up in Lakers colors, and that's even though I'm more of a Fultz guy than a Lonzo Ball guy. It just feels like the fit is right for him to end up in LA. But the question that everybody has had has been, sure, Lonzo's great, but what about his dad? What about LaVar Ball? And we've talked about this before, and we've said that his dad won't have a major impact on whether or not the Lakers select him. But I guess my question to you, Corey, is how are we as members of the media going to handle LaVar Ball in Los Angeles, assuming that is what's going to happen?
I'm gonna enjoy the ride. I don't know what everyone else is gonna do. It's comedy for me. I mean, what can you do? He's backing his sons. He's trying to get them money, get them set up for life. And I'm not gonna get mad at that. He says some ridiculous things, but at the same time, he has a platform to do it. He's not going out on his own Twitter page or his own Instagram page or anything like that and saying these things. He's saying these things to ESPN and to Fox Sports and to Sports Illustrated and to Bleacher Report or whoever because they're giving him the platform to do it. You want LaVar Ball to shut up? Stop giving him the platform to do so. At the end of the day, he's going to say what he wants to say. As long as he's not, sitting here telling Lonzo to not listen to Luke Walton or to not pass the ball to Ingram or something like that. And he's not stupid enough to do that. And stuff like that isn't going to fly in the NBA because he's not going to be able to control a coach or a franchise. Luke Walton played with Kobe for 75% of his career. You really think he's going to be worried about what LaVar Ball is saying in Chino Hills? Think Magic Johnson, after dealing with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all of these hard-nosed people, is going to worry about what LaVar Ball and Pat Riley?
Yeah.
No one cares. He can say whatever he wants. Now, this might bring some certain players who are going to try to attack Lonzo on the court. Mm-hmm. But if you're number 2 pick, that's going to come with the territory as it is. He maybe has a little bit more of a bullseye, but it was already going to have a bullseye because you're a top pick. Other than that, LaVar can say what he wants. Lonzo has to step up on the court at the end of the day. And it didn't affect him doing that at UCLA in a pretty big, not the biggest, not Kentucky, North Carolina level pressure, but pretty big pressure at UCLA. So I'm not going to sit here and say that LaVar's, really going to just throw everything off and just really hurt Lonzo or the Lakers. I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Well, and now seems like a perfect time to mention that our own Ryan Ward from Lakers Nation actually did an interview just, about an hour ago now with LaVar Ball, and that's going to be posted to LakersNation.com probably about by the time this podcast is up. This whole interview with LaVar is going to be up as well. So that's definitely something to be on the lookout for. But Corey, I am in agreement with you. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. And he can say some pretty outlandish things at times. He can say things that sometimes are downright crazy. I mean, about trying to, beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one and all that stuff. I don't know if I would pick, certain NBA players to beat Michael Jordan right now in a game of one-on-one. So I
would pick LaVar Ball to beat Michael Jordan's sons in one-on-one, but I don't care. He can say whatever he wants.
So it'll at least be interesting to cover him and cover the Ball family if that's the way it goes. I mean, the Lakers really, out of this draft, they got flexibility, right? I mean, they can go in a lot of different directions. They could end up with Markelle Fultz, like you said. They could pick Josh Jackson. I even saw Chad Ford of ESPN was mentioning that the Lakers really love De'Aaron Fox, and that he could be a real dark horse candidate for that number 2 pick, and that Magic Johnson was there to see Fox and Kentucky beat up on Ball and UCLA in March Madness this year. So we don't know exactly what they're going to do, but the Lakers do have some flexibility now. And one of the things that we talked about the last time we had you on the show was the possibility of trading the pick, particularly in a Paul George trade. And now that the pick is a little bit more tangible, now that we know what they've got the number 2 pick. We know it's probably going to end up being a guy like Lonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz. Does that shift your opinion about potentially trading the pick at all?
No, I feel the same way. You're going to have to give up something.
Yeah.
Especially with someone caliber of Paul George or Jimmy Butler or someone like that. again, I always look at it from the eyes of the team giving up the star and what would I ask for in exchange. And if I'm one of those teams, you're either giving me whoever's drafted at number 2 or you're giving me Brandon Ingram. And if that's not on the table, I'm not even discussing this deal with you. Me personally, I'm not touching Ingram. I'm sorry. He won me over that last 6 weeks. I'm 100% on the Brandon Ingram trade. And from the sounds of it, seems like Magic Johnson is too. He, in an interview earlier today on, I believe it was Sirius XM, he said that the Lakers are probably going to build around Brandon Ingram. And I'm behind that 100%. I'm an Ingram believer, and I would not give him up unless I'm getting like a top 10 player back. But it's going to depend on what it takes and also the timing of everything. I think that it would cost the Lakers less if they were to wait at the trade deadline. But who knows all of the, what all can happen between now and then. The ball's in the Pacers court or the Bulls court or whoever may want to make a deal, but the Lakers are going to have to give up something. And if it's going to be for someone of that caliber, I would think they would want either the pick or Ingram. Now, if you can swing a deal without giving up one of those, then kudos to Pelinka and Magic for pulling something off like that.
Right.
But they've said multiple times they have a plan in place, and now they're gonna start executing that plan. So we just have to see what's happening.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what the results are. I'm very, very hesitant to do a deal, particularly for Paul George, because of the free agency situation with him being a free agent in 2018. I'm more leaning towards the side of hold off on that and just wait until he becomes a free agent and then go after him, although it is a bit of a risk. So I certainly understand that whole problem where you don't want him to get traded somewhere like Boston or something like that. And speaking of which, Boston did end up with the number 1 overall pick. They have Isaiah Thomas. They have Avery Bradley in their backcourt already. It would seem that Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball are the top 2 players on just about every draft board out there. There are some exceptions, like I know Sam Vecini, who I spoke to a few weeks ago, has Jason Tatum as his 2nd overall player. But for the most part, it's Ball and Fultz. So just to break away from Lakers stuff real quick, what do you see the Celtics doing? Could they potentially deal that pick? Do you think that's going to happen?
That'd be dumb on their part. You need a superstar. They need another star player. I think anyone who's watched the Celtics in the playoffs knows they're not as good as they are, and they're a very good team right now. They're still another star player away, and they have the potential to add that player in someone like a Fultz or a Ball. But unless they would use it to get, you better be getting someone really, really good for the pick. If not, you take Fultz or you take whoever you think is the best overall player, and you figure things out after that. And they're in the position where they can do that. Now, they may have to move other people eventually. Hey, if Avery Bradley becomes available, I'll take him on my team. Lord knows the Lakers need defenders.
Right.
But that's something that you figure out after the fact. When you're in the position that the Celtics are in, where you've got you're one of the 5 best teams in the league already. You take the best talent, you figure out everything else after the fact. And I think that's what they're going to do unless someone blows the doors off with a ridiculous offer. And, the Celtics have a history of that. That's how they got this number 1 pick in the first place. So Who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, they could very well find a trade. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But one thing that we are hearing, and this is something that we actually started to hear before the draft lottery. This came out a few days before. The rumor that players are hesitant, or at least draft-eligible players are hesitant to go to the Celtics because their team is so loaded that agents, this came out of the draft combine, that agents aren't so keen on their player going to Boston, in particular because they're afraid that player's going to sit the bench, kind of like what happened to Jaylen Brown this year. And now we're hearing that Lonzo Ball in particular may decide to only work out for the Los Angeles Lakers because he is so dead set on going to them. And that would be his attempt to force the Celtics to pass on him, and then that would allow him to fall to LA. What's your take on that? Is that a good move on Ball's part, or is that putting all of his eggs in the Lakers basket, and then if they pass on him, he's kind of in a tough spot?
No, teams have drafted players that haven't worked out with before. And Lonzo has said that they'll play for whoever. But we all know that LaVar wants him to be a Laker. Lonzo wants to be a Laker. They've said this from day one, so them only wanting to work out for the Lakers when they seem to be in the best position to draft them, it just makes perfect sense. So I don't think that's any kind of a surprise. It goes right in line with everything they've been saying. If they were going to go everywhere else, unless the Lakers weren't in a position to draft them, but they are. So it makes perfect sense for them to just go, we're working out for the Lakers. That's where they want to be. People being worried about going to the Celtics, that's just stupid. You want your player to be in a winning position. You want your guys to be winners. Jaylen Brown isn't not playing because, they were just loaded. He had a great Game 7 for them. It's about opportunity. And earlier in the season, Jaylen Brown had some good times, and then he struggled. So he had the opportunity to play, and it just didn't work out. He wasn't quite ready. So, if you got the opportunity, you got to take advantage of it. If you're a believer in your client's talents, they're going to get the opportunity to play. Brad Stevens is a really, really good coach, and he knows how to get the best out of his players and play to their strengths. If he thinks a guy can contribute, they're going to find their way on the court. They just have to take advantage of that. So if someone like Fultz, he's going to get a chance to play, at least somewhat. You never know what can happen, especially with injuries and then all the amount of rest players get these days in the NBA. Fultz will get his opportunity to play. It might come at the Avery Bradley might have to sacrifice some minutes, or Marcus Smart might have to sacrifice some minutes, or whatever that may happen. But the guys are going to get a chance. You want to be on a team with a great coach who's going to cultivate talent. And as much as I hate to say it, Boston is the place that does that. They've gotten the best out of Isaiah Thomas. They've made Marcus Smart a really, really great contributor. Avery Bradley's become a legit two-way player. And for God's sakes, we just saw Kelly Olynyk decide a Game 7 yesterday. It's Kelly Olynyk, and he's making major, huge plays. Because they cultivate these guys' strength. They play guys to their strengths, and they put them in position to where they can succeed. Boston is a place where they can do that under Brad Stevens. So for an agent to just go, they have a lot of guys already, so I'm iffy on it, that's ridiculous. And honestly, would seem to me that you don't have as much belief as you should in your client.
Well, that's a great point, and yes, the Kelly Olynyk factor is certainly huge. He was Dirk Olynyk in that game. He was insane. I couldn't believe what he was doing there in Game 7 against the Wizards.
Almost turned the TV off. It was so disturbing.
I did at one point. I turned the channel. I flipped over to a random I think MLS soccer game that was on, and I suddenly saw on Twitter that the Wizards were starting to make a comeback. So I flipped back over. And then the Celtics went on another run, and Kelly Olynyk was hitting these flip shots and everything. My wife started making fun of me, saying that it was because I changed the channel back on that they came back. It was unbelievable. But
there's forever going to be a Kelly Olynyk game now.
Yeah, the Kelly Olynyk, that happens. So there are opportunities for players, even on a loaded team. But on the same token, I can understand what these agents are saying, that they want to see their young player get opportunities early. They want to see them have the ability to sort of build their brand from an early stage in their career. So I get both sides of it, but ultimately I do lean more towards your side, Corey, that the cream is going to rise, right? The best is going to come out. So if a player can really play, regardless of what they have around them, a good team is going to find a way to use them. So I'm in agreement with you there, even though really, players dodging the Celtics in order to fall to other teams just kind of benefits the Lakers. But I do agree that agents do need to have a little bit more faith in their players. Now, before we get out of here, we would be remiss if we didn't mention this random little ironic thing that occurred here with the draft lottery. Phoenix fell to 4, and Phoenix and the Los Angeles Lakers were in a crazy tank race. A race to the bottom. You had the Lakers were playing Tyler Ennis a bunch of minutes. Meta World Peace got minutes. I mean, and then things just completely went sideways on them, right? You had Tyler Ennis beat the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, he was hitting these crazy shots, and somehow the Lakers ended up falling from the second worst record to the third worst record, and ironically, it ended up being fortuitous. If the Lakers had kept the second worst overall pick, which the Suns ended up with, they would have fallen to 4 and they would have lost their draft pick this year. Corey, how crazy is that the Lakers win streak saved their draft pick?
The basketball gods reward those who play. You always say the basketball gods reward those who play hard. Everyone is just so angry, and why are you playing so good? Oh, players should be losing on purpose, and you're gonna lose the pick. It's over. It's all over. We're gonna drop this pick. These idiots.
The sky was falling.
You don't even know how to tank right, and it was all crazy. And in the end, a 5-game win streak, thanks to Tyler Ennis, like you said, beating the Spurs, thanks to the Meta World Peace farewell game, thanks to Thomas Robinson and David Nwaba, the Lakers end up keeping this pick. It is absolutely hilarious to me because I was always on the side of we're playing non-guaranteed guys and young guys. What more do you want the team to do? And it works out the way that it did. It is absolutely ironic, and it's absolutely hilarious to me. That a 5-game win streak, when literally winning was the worst thing that the Lakers could do at the time, ends up being the reason that they keep the pick. It is outstanding, and it's like I said, players go out and play, and you let everything else work itself out. And for the Lakers, it worked out in their favor on this one, and for the Suns, not so much. And not to mention that the Suns also did have this pick too, so they traded away the Lakers pick, right, and then they end up falling back behind the Lakers again. It's I don't think it's karma. I don't think the Suns necessarily did things wrong, but the basketball gods shine down on those who keep playing. Keep repeating it over and over again. I really believe that.
The basketball gods certainly spoke here. I mean, the Suns had Devin Booker go for, what did he go for? Was it 70?
70.
Or was it 70 on the nose? So he went for 70 points, and they still managed to lose the game, and Suns fans were going crazy about how great it was that he had scored so many points, and they had lost, and they were moving past the Lakers, and it was going to be so great when the Lakers lost their pick and everything. And then here comes the basketball gods, and they flip everything on its head. It's just incredible. I mean, you mentioned Thomas Robinson. Do you remember that story that there were fans actually hitting up Thomas Robinson on social media, coming after him for playing so hard and helping the team win? You remember that?
I still despise that with a passion.
Awful stuff. And I mean, that's what Thomas Robinson is all about. I mean, when I talked to that guy back in Summer League, and I said, what are you going to do to make this team? He said, flat out, just play harder than everybody else. Right? That is Thomas Robinson at his core, and people were mad at him for playing so hard. And it's just incredible to see how everything worked out okay, despite all the worrying. And I'll admit, I was worried too. I was one of those people that was wringing my hands over every win that was happening and everything. But it's amazing the way it all just kind of worked out the way it's supposed to. And I think this is the moment that people are going to point to from now on. When teams are talking about tanking and teams are talking about, trying to influence their draft odds and all that kind of stuff, they're going to say, well, what about that Lakers team that continued to play hard and they accidentally won games and then they ended up keeping their pick anyway? The draft, you never know what's going to happen with a lottery, and I think that's the brilliance behind it, right?
Absolutely, it's a crapshoot. It's not like the NFL where it's just straight records. It's, you end up where you land and you hope the ping pong balls bounce in your favor. Sometimes things hold completely straight like they did last year. Sometimes you get, the Orlando Magic jumping from 12-1 or whatever they did to get, or the Cavs in 2014 jumping way up to number one. You never know how it's going to work, and that's what makes it such drama. And as ridiculous as the entire presentation of the lottery is and how they stretch it out over this entire half hour, it is a drama-filled moment when those envelopes are being opened. And with every single one of those open, you're like staring at it, hoping not to see purple and gold just yet. And right. It's dumb to the average person, but to basketball hardcore purist fans, it is like must-watch TV down to the last second.
Absolutely. It keeps you on the edge of your seat when you're a fan of a team that is in the lottery, because you're just watching it on pins and needles. And really, I mean, I was nervous all day. You said you started getting nervous about 4 o'clock, and it's almost like a little bit of fun after the season. Of course, I wouldn't be saying it was fun if the Lakers had lost their pick, but now they get to move into the real building part of the summer, the draft, and then free agency. And of course, there's going to be trade options and all kinds of stuff coming up. And now the Lakers get to really stretch their wings. We get to see what Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka are really made of. So, Corey, but before we get out of here, because it's about time to wrap things up here, before we get out of here, on draft day, when it comes time for the Lakers pick, what name are you really hoping gets called?
I'd have whichever player the Lakers think is the best player for the team. Honestly, I've always said that. I have my favorites. Like I said, Josh Jackson is a personal favorite of mine. I just love the way that he plays. I love his attitude. Every team kind of needs that jerk, kind of angry attitude person.
So Josh Jackson is a jerk?
The man is picking up multiple technical fouls in Kansas. Like, how many guys are picking up multiple technical fouls in college basketball? But just that attitude, the way he carries himself. You need that Draymond Green guy, that the Marcus Smart, to kind of just piss off people, even on your own team, and just do those kinds of things. And he's a guy like that. So I really do like him. But for me, it's about the Lakers picking the guy that they feel has the best chance to be a star, that they feel is the best player for this team. And they've earned the draft group, the scouts, they've earned that right to, I'm going to trust who they pick, be it when everyone thought Okafor was the obvious guy, and Russell has clearly outplayed Okafor to this point.
Yes.
At number 27, they take Larry Nance Jr., and everyone collectively said, huh? Who? And then killed him for a previous Kobe tweet, and now he's probably the most beloved player on the team. To random Ivica Zubac, who no one had ever heard of, and halfway through the year, everyone's saying he should have been starting from the beginning because he's that good. They've earned the right to. I just trust what they're going to do. So we're going to see through workouts, and I know they've got some coming soon, and they're going to take a long look at everybody, and whoever they end up picking, I'm honestly going to trust that they know what they're doing, because I feel like they've earned that over these last couple of years. And I know that's the cheap, safe way out or whatever, but that's honestly how I feel with this team now.
I mean, Corey, that's a great way to look at things, because if you're really going back and forth, you're kind of torn on it, you don't really have to worry, because the Lakers are going to put in the work, and we know that even though Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss are gone, the other members of the Lakers front office are still around. So if you're saying, oh, well, it was Mitch and Jim making those picks, well, kind of, but they had other people evaluating guys like Larry Nance Jr., who ended up being a huge success on the team, and of course D'Angelo Russell and players like that. So at this point, you're right. You kind of do have to just put some faith into the Lakers scouting and their ability to find the right player, and we'll see where things go from here. Well, Corey, this was a phenomenal night for Lakers fans. I mean, one that we're certainly going to remember for quite a while. I certainly appreciate you coming on the show. Always a great time talking with you, and your draft knowledge is always so impressive. I tip my hat to you. Thanks so much for spending your time with us here tonight.
Always enjoy it, man. It was a great time.
So that was Corey Hansford, the draft expert from LakersNation.com. You can find all of his work on LakersNation.com. He does an absolutely phenomenal job there, posts just about everything on there. It's an incredible effort. You can also find him on Twitter at the Corey H. That's TheeCoryh. Definitely a great follow on Twitter. That's going to about wrap things up for today. You can find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, the CLNS radio app, and of course LakersNation.com, which is a one-stop shop for all things Lakers. I will be back on Monday. We'll be breaking down more draft lottery news and all the fallout from the giant draft lottery win for the Los Angeles Lakers. Thanks a lot. My name is Trevor Lane, and this has been the Lakers Nation Podcast. See ya.